Hello, because of popular request, I'm going to help you make a list with allies in Warhammer the Old World is one of the most common questions I get. And in my game tonight, I plan on playing a theme list of like a Bretonian village with some allied high elves defending an invasion of some sort. I actually don't know what I'm playing against yet, but I thought it was a perfect opportunity to create a list with allies to show everybody how they work because it's causing a bit of confusion how the ally matrix works. So first of all, to explain the list I'm going to play, it's actually going to be a Bretonian 2,000 point list with an allied contingent of high elves for the narrative. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the Kingdom of Bretonia army list composition, step one. It's pretty basic here, but we'll go over it again. So I'm going to play a grand army composition, and I can have up to 50% characters, at least 25% core, blah, 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 that kind of stuff, just as you normally would. And then at the end there it says allies. I can have up to 25% of my points spent on a single allied contingent drawn from. Now, I already know I'll be using high elves. So in a 2,000 point game, I'm going to make my list right now. I'm going to leave 500 points aside because I can bring up to 500 points of allies of high elves. So before we get into how to build that allied part, I'm going to really quick go ahead and build my Bretonian list. And I know the narrative I'm already going with. It's going to have a prophetess leading the village defense. It's going to be a level 4. Am I going to make battle elemental? I don't have to make a decision right now. I'll come back to that. Magic items, I know the good old click click, Ruby Ring of Ruin, and Lore Familiar. Just 2 auto includes, but you know what? We might just drop those for narrative reasons later. And then our core, we must have a unit of Bretonian Knights. So we see the Army of Infamy here. 1+ unit of, sorry, not Army of Infamy. Grand Army composition. I must have 1+ unit of Bretonian Knights. Knights of the Realm. So I'm going to add that. But I'm actually going to add more Knights because I know the mission that I'm going to be playing. And it's going to be flank assault. So I'm going to have all my peasants and the high elves defending my village. And then all the cav, which is not going to be that much, will be in the flank, on the flank assault mission, helping out. So I'm going to bring 2 units of mounted Knights of the Realm. And I'm actually going to bring a unit of Knights Errant. Oh, I want 6. Oops, 6. To be my flank assault force. Now, this pretty much almost gets you my full 500 points of core, but we're going to go with more than 500 points of core because we're doing a theme. We're doing a narrative thing. So, Peasant Bowman, I like units of 16 with, might as well give them all the upgrades because they're pretty decent for Bretonians. Defensive stakes, for sure. And then we're going to add some men-at-arms. Squad of 20. Don't have any Grail Monks assembled, so we'll just do this command. And, you know, already, well, 666. We're already spending a lot more points on core than you need to. Either way, your core, sorry, let me rephrase that. Your Grand Army composition, your initial list must still spend 500 points, sorry, 25% plus points on core. There's some confusion that you can use core from your ally contingent to fill this out. No, no, no. Your list must follow the Grand Army composition. You must spend 25% of your army on core. I have met those requirements here. I can move on. I can spend up to 1,000 points of this list on characters. I'm not going to go any farther than the 225 I have on the prophetess. We're going to add some mounted yeomen. We're sticking with our, nope, not standing bear. We're sticking with our theme here. Do I want feigned flight? No, but I do want light armor. And we want, do I want feigned flight? Now, we'll take a warden. We're going to make 2 of these. Rare, a trebuchet. For some reason, the village has one set up. In fact, you know what? Maybe they have 2. So, you see, I'm at 1,271 points. I have, what, 229 points more I can spend. I think we're going to double up on our peasants and men-at-arms. And look at that, 1,475 of the 1,500 points I want to spend on the Bretonians. You know what I'm going to do? The Knights Errant, they're impetuous. Let's give them a little extra help. Let's give them a 25-point magic banner, the war banner, for just in case. 1,500 points spent on my Bretonians. I have 500 points left over for my Kingdom of Bretonia Grand Army composition, will be the allies. So just double check and make sure I met all the requirements. I do have a character to lead the army. This is my general. Let's actually click that. I have at least 25% spent in core. I have at least 500 points spent in core. Check. I did not spend more than 50% of my army, so I did not spend more than 1,000 points on special, and I did not spend more than 25% of my army in rare. Okay, perfect. This part of the list is done and good. Let's go do the high elf part. All right, to bring the allied contingent into the list, we have to go to rulebook page 280 to figure out the rules for an allied contingent. We have the high elf grand army composition open up. Let's open the rulebook. There we go. So an allied contingent is a miniature army in its own right, and it must follow the rules for the army composition. So knowing that, reading all that, we're allowed to have up to 25% of our army, as we already said. 500 points of our army will be the high elf allied contingent, and now it must follow the high elf allied contingent rules. So right here, we must abide by all this. Up to 50% of our allied contingent can be characters, and 25% must be core. Now, we can use Old World Builder like we've been doing here and adding allies, but it can be a little tricky to go through it all and then doing the math in their head and all that kind of stuff. Now, I know there's already people who are going to disagree with my interpretation of the allied contingent. There's a line right here on page 280. Accordingly, an allied contingent must abide by the army composition rules and percentages given for the army composition list used to create it. So the list used to create it is where we differ. So I think a lot of people are using the, for example, my list today, my Bretonian Grand Army composition would use those percentages, even including allies, to explain. You can spend up to 50% of your points in your army on characters. So that would include Bretonian and allied characters. So long as your total units spent in an allied contingent is only 25% of your army. So with that reading, you could bring, in a 2,000 point game, 500 points of high elves. You can spend 300 points on a wizard and 2 bolt throwers. That would be a legal allied contingent with that reading. I don't believe that's the incorrect interpretation. I believe this does imply it is a separate army to its own right. In the line that says, accordingly, an allied contingent must abide by the army composition rules and percentages given for the army composition list used to create it. I actually believe that is, if you're bringing allies, high elves in today's example, I have to use their Grand Army composition. That's what that line means, and that's where the divide is. I think if you read that divide the other way, which I fully understand that argument, and it can be interpreted that way, you're kind of stepping on the toes of all the mercenary rules. I think the mercenary rules are meant to cover those type of situations. So while I can't argue rules as written, this is definitely 100% the intent. This is my reading and my intent, and how I will be using allies until it is clarified even more. And I do believe this is, I don't believe anybody should ever argue intent, but I do believe this is intent. I find the easiest thing to do is just to make a new list. Let's take our ally contingent high elves, make it high elves. It's only a 500 point list because that's all the points we have left over. Now, granted, if we were playing a 2,500 point game, the core allotment on the Bretonians would have increased, as would the character allotment, but then your allied contingent allotment would increase as well. We're going to create this list and start creating our theme for our allies. So we know we have high elves defending a Bretonian village. Why are they there? This is all narrative. We don't need to do this, but we're in narrative. This is a trading vessel. So maybe a sea captain, some sea guards, some military on the boats helping to defend. So our character, let's stick with a noble here. And we're going to go down to High Elf Honors and make him a sea guard. Give him full plate armor. Good relic armor. Let's give him a shield. Why not? And then some magic items. I like the Sword of Might. I like the Dragon Helm for extra armor. Saying that's like a 2-up armor and like one of the best items in the game for its points. Seed of Rebirth. There we go. We can spend up to 250 points of characters in this list. We're only spending 128, so we're good. Our ally contingent must have a general as well. Boom. And then we must have at least one other unit. And we have to spend at least 25% of our ally contingent on core. 125 points must be spent on core. We're going to spend more than that, though, because we're going to bring a unit of Lothran Sea Guard And they're going to have thrusting spears, and they're going to be shields. And we're going to give them, you know, the full command. How many do you think we can get in here? Oh, you know what? Let's make it a unit of 20. Put that noble in there. Now it's a unit 21, 7x3. It's a squad I like. All right, I have 115 points left over I can spend. Know what would stick on theme great would be a bolt thrower. That would be a perfect addition to this allied contingent. Another war machine. It fits in the theme. These bolt throwers are on the boats with the Sea Guard. But I'm going to go over to my High Elf Grand Army composition and just double check to make sure I can do that. And bolt throwers are... where are they? They are rare. 0 to 2 Eagle Claw bolt throwers per 1,000 points. Now, we may be playing a 2,000 point game. However, my High Elf Ally contingent is only a 500 point contingent, which means I cannot bring any bolt throwers. I can bring bolt throwers. I have to have at least 1,000 points in my army to bring bolt throwers. And this ally contingent counts as its own mini army in its own right. So I cannot bring any bolt throwers, unfortunately. But I see that Lothern Skycutters don't have any restrictions other than the fact that they're rare. So Lothern Skycutter does fit into the theme. So we'll add in a Skycutter. And we'll give it an Eagle Eye Bolt Thrower. It's 500 points on the nose. We have up to 10 more points left to spend on rare, so we're good there. We got our minimum core spent. We have our character. We have a legal allied contingent to play our game this evening against Luca. So we have 500 points spent in High Elves in their Grand Army composition, and 1,500 points spent on Bretonnians in their Grand Army composition. And now working together on the battlefield is quite simple. Each army counts as their own army, but they are working together. So the general of my Bretonnian list is my Prophetess. She has the Inspiring Presence special rule. So all my Bretonnians within 12 inches of her may use her leadership as their own. And the High Elf Noble is the general of that allied contingent. And every High Elf character or unit within 12 inches of that Noble may use that Noble's leadership with the Inspiring Presence special rule. But the Presence may not use the Noble's Inspiring Presence, and like the Sea Guard may not use the Prophetess's Inspiring Presence. Same thing would work if either contingent had a battle standard bearer, but basically I have two generals. My main general would be the Prophetess, not that that matters. Which I believe also will hand out extra victory points for killing multiple generals. So more often than not, I'm seeing that allies actually don't make your list better. You're probably usually nerfing your list in one way or another. Now, there are some extreme outliers, like there are ways bringing a wizard as an ally into a dwarven list is probably going to make dwarves a little better, but you're going to do some give and take. And there are a few things I've seen people try to do with allies that don't work, and I want to cover those next. It's magic items. Remember, magic items are locked 1 per army for non-common magic items. So, for example, the Lore Familiar is a non-common magic item. I can put one on my Prophetess, but then I cannot put one on a character in my allied contingent, because the allied contingent, remember, is still part of your main army. My main army today is a Kingdom of Bretonnia Grand Army composition, and within that army, I have an allied contingent of 25%, so it is part of my army, so no duplicating magic items. And can you game the system? Yeah, maybe. You can probably do things that your army shouldn't normally be able to do, like bringing a wizard into a dwarf list. Can help you out a little bit, but for the most part, these allies don't add a whole lot to power. You're usually giving up something. Now, you can have more than 50% of your total points spent on characters using the allied matrix, because remember, you can spend 50% of your army in characters for your grand army composition. So I could have spent 1,000 points on Bretonnian characters and still brought an allied contingent, which allows me another 500 points of allies, which up to 50% of that may be spent on characters. So technically, I can bring 1,000 points of Bretonnian characters and 250 points of High Elf characters. Now, that seems too good. It's not an issue. I can't find a combo where that's actually an issue, because not only did I increase the characters I can bring, but I also increased the core I have to bring. So I have to bring 25% core in my Grand Army composition, and I have to bring 25% more core in my allies contingent. So yeah, the amount of characters you could bring gets overall increased, but the amount of core you have to bring gets overall increased as well. And the true power of these armies are, yes, are in characters, but is in rare and special. So there's give and take. I've yet to find a combo that I'm overly concerned with, and my overall opinion right now is alloys, for the most part, makes your basic army get a little bit weaker. But that might be my playstyle, and we'll see how that changes with upcoming Arcane Journals. So there you go. There's how to build an ally contingent, how to use allies in Warhammer the Old World. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Is there another topic you want me to tackle next? I'm more than willing to do it. Love doing these videos. See you in the next one, and happy wargaming.